Hello and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today on the podcast, we have Jason Berkowitz from Break the Web. Jason, you are the founder and SEO director of Break the Web, correct?
That is correct, Mike. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So as the founder and SEO director, I think I want to start with, and I'm asking this question kind of personally too because of my own business, but SEO is getting a bad rap right now and people are talking about SEO's in trouble, it's dead, it's all these things. And we know that, through time and evolution, and these things are somewhat cyclical depending on what's going on in the market and within marketing as in a whole. But what are your thoughts on that? And kind of how do you see the landscape of SEO playing out here in the next 10 to 12 months?
Yeah, I first wonder if we're in like an echo chamber of sorts where we're the only ones, whether it's SEOs or maybe more modern digital marketers that are the only ones that are actually thinking about it. I guess rightfully so too. SEO is always going to be around as long as search engines are producing results versus giving AI generated answers. Also, Google rolled back. It seems apparent that Google has rolled back their search generative experience launch just because it logically also makes sense. It's just not that good. It's not ready. Also, less than 1% of users were using it anyways or had access to it. So I think there's still, from a consumer perspective and the mainstream normal people, not us marketers, still have that weird, I guess, fear of AI or getting AI information, especially when it does give inaccuracies.
Yeah. And I think in my opinion on it now, and thank you for that. My opinion on it too is that, these things, there's always like a cause and effect. So now that the search engines are having those discussions of, hey, what does it look like when all this is AI generated and all of a sudden AI is answering the questions and all these different things, there's going to be a cause and effect process there where they're going to look at that and go, okay, well, now how do we monetize that differently? How do we take more control over that? So it's not just because that's the game, that's what they do. So when they start to kind of take those, take that action and do what they're going to do and figure out how to maintain their own foothold in this thing, it's going to change how it originally started. And I think it might be a different version of SEO and it might be a hybrid and it might be a strategy shift, but I don't think it's going anywhere. It's like I still think you're going to have to play the game. It just might be a different version.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows when that different version might be anyways. And it's still not here and probably not going to come anytime in the very near future. But that's what SEO has always been, kind of like adapting and evolving. Things are always changing, even from Google still pretty much does kind of hold a monopoly, but other search engines and being as a small market share still, you do kind of adapt and evolve, and strategies change and philosophies when it comes to building trust and authority have evolved. And you've been doing this a while, so you've probably seen a lot of different SEO tactics come and go over the years. Good SEOs are resilient and do adapt. Bad SEOs are the ones that get stuck in their ways and fail to just go along with the changing times.
Yeah. This is a somewhat loaded question because I myself believe it is very important. Well, how would you describe and kind of break down the mix or the importance of brand in how it fits into SEO and kind of the numbers game?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for the numbers game because it's hard to put a quantitative measure to your brand value or brand perception online per se. There is a project called the Semantic Web, which is Google, Bing, W3, in which to try to classify everything into entities so that, Mike, you are a marketer, you own a marketing agency, you're associated with this person works for you, and whatnot. Everything is dissected into specific entities. And brands do seem to do well when they do have established entities and are kind of following the regular brand marketing you might traditionally do, building up a brand, registering it, getting it out on places. Does give a little bit more weight and trustworthiness, I would say, to your website, thus helping in turn your SEO value and organic positions.
Yeah. Would you agree that like kind of the brand equity or the brand, kind of how strong that brand is and their position within the industry? I mean, in my opinion, it can influence keyword. It can influence ranking because the more authority you have online, the more places you're going to be in, the more you're going to own those triggers.
Yeah, I mean, our clients, a few of them are traditional brands in a given market that have kind of a legacy authority, but are being overtaken by some lower, smaller brands that are just doing really great SEO. And it's so funny because once we start doing actionable SEO and everything's intentional, and we'll fix a couple of things, help them with some optimizations, almost overnight, they just shoot right up and put themselves back into that same position where they belong. And these are traditional companies that may have grown over the last few decades offline versus online and are now just updating things to be a bit more modern and fixing some things here or there. It solely happens probably because of their existing reputation and authority.
They have a higher, stronger foundation on which to build off of, which gets them there faster, which is, yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of good links from around the web pointing to their site. They have a lot of good partnerships that existed, a lot of good, just regular traditional PR mixed with maybe some digital PR that's helping them. And then it's just usually their website that stinks. Yeah. So fixing that is what gives it a nice big boost.
So tell me a little bit about Break the Web and how you started your business.
Yeah, Break the Web helps in-house marketing teams of D2C brands make SEO less annoying. Easy as that. SEO has a lot of nuance and weird ambiguity to it. So our goal is just try to get as much buy-in as possible internally, help in-house marketing teams just showcase really good organic, not traffic growth.
Yep. What does that relationship look like? Is it long-term, or is it something where you come in and kind of set the strategy and the plan and walk away, or kind of what does that look like from a client perspective?
Yeah, our agency is kind of divided into two, but 75% of it is kind of the longer term, what we call our recurring service versus the one-off on-demand service, which might be a smaller project like some market, keyword research, technical SEO auditing, and help develop an initial foundation or SEO strategy. But then it's weird because then that puts all the accountability on the in-house team to get things done, which is scary when you're not an SEO person. But then most of our services do fall under kind of the recurring label where it's ongoing and everything is staged into a few different processes taking place per month. We have a nice timeline and a roadmap typically over the course of 12 months, what actions will be taking place, when, how it impacts things, and usually is tailored to the brand, what they need, what gaps exist, and how we might be able to help them.
Nice. So when a client comes to you, and I know that they come in all shapes and sizes, and some people are in the market a long time, some people are brand new, but is there, kind of some general advice or a formula that you would give them to kind of get started? So when I look at even 2024, we're in, smack dab in January right now. Everybody's putting their plans together. They're trying to figure out what to do for the year. If you're an e-commerce company, you've got 8 to 9 months to really build up some momentum before Q4. What does that look like for you? And what is that advice that you give people at this time of year?
Yeah, team alignment, department alignment. If the brand has specific marketing goals, understanding what the goals are, understand what individual contributors might be tracked against and what they're going to be looking at, then bringing in SEO strategy, tying that into what type of market demand might be out there. With SEO, the first step really is just market research, keyword research, just seeing what type of demand exists, how big the sizable market is, and what people are specifically searching for, how competitive it might be, because a brand might want to go a specific direction, which is still cool, but SEO may not validate that. And maybe competitiveness might be too high for where you currently are. Or maybe there really is no demand. Well, that's like the entrepreneurial, downfall sometimes is like, oh, everyone wants my product. Everyone wants my service. Where, sure, but maybe SEO isn't the right vertical since it is demand-based. That's usually where we aim to start things, is get a full understanding of where the brand wants to go, where they want to be, who's contributing, what different departments, brands, marketing, tech, devs, content, creatives, writers, like making sure that everyone's on full alignment of the overall strategy. From the SEO side of things, our side, presenting the opportunities that exist in which some may align with the brand, some may not. Our job is to present all the different opportunities. And then once we have an idea on what the client or the brand might like from our opportunities, we hone in and just kind of double down on that, make some trackable KPIs, trackable targets, and start fixing and cleaning things up.
Yeah. How important is it that clients connect those dots across, all kind of platforms and all kind of marketing resources? I mean, I think specifically we're talking about search engine, we're talking about website, but how does social media fit into this? How does that overall kind of social proof and impact play into the big picture of SEO?
Yeah, I think getting alignment from everyone could be one of the most undervalued aspects, I think, in any marketing vertical, not just SEO specifically, because everyone kind of has this weird selfish desire to get what they need done specifically against what their specific individual KPIs might be. But by being selfish towards your KPIs, you're also ignoring someone else's possible conflicting KPIs. So getting everyone under the same umbrella, have clarity, have good alignment will help everyone kind of win for SEO. For example, if we're helping one of our points of contact and there are a marketing manager in-house somewhere and they can't help get buy-in from the dev, the problem is maybe we're not helping them. Let the devs see how it also might benefit them to implement whatever. With also keeping in mind, we don't want to sacrifice SEO for user experience, conversion value, tech related stuff, making sure that everything kind of blends in and mixes overall. And tying that into social media, it's hard to say there's a direct impact on social and SEO. If anything, there might be indirect impact. But for example, if you're producing SEO driven content marketing and articles, those are of course shareable on social media. Send them out to your email newsletter. So SEO could help other forms of marketing as well. You could also send some paid advertising to some of those inner pages and articles as well to boost a little bit of traffic and maybe get some links too. Naturally, if it's right smack up there on top of the search engine. So yeah, it can give it a little bit of help. But again, social, if somebody finds it and they want to link to it, that's more indirect.
Yeah. And, some of it might just be an exercise of, like you said, making sure that the guy next to you is on the same page and making sure that you're consistent with your message. Even if it's, like you were saying, even if it's indirect benefit, the direct benefit might be the fact that it forces consistency, which is valuable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we see it all the time, and which SEOs, specialists or agencies are trying to pitch their idea, but the idea pretty much might go against brand voice and messaging and guidelines. And it makes the SEO agency look bad because they didn't take the time to really research the brand, the market. We have kind of these surveys and ask for these brand voice guidelines and everything under the sun, terminology they like using, they don't like using. But a lot of people do pitch their own selfish reasons without thinking about the full picture, and everyone should be serving the bigger picture.
Yeah. And if I'm and I ask this question because I've experienced it myself with clients. If I'm a client, how do I know what's working and not working? Like if I'm coming to a company, an SEO company like yourself, how do I know that what you're doing is working? Because I feel like part of the reason why people back burner SEO or they just don't necessarily buy into it at the level they should is because it's something that's somewhat unseen. They don't understand it. They don't really know how it connects. So it's hard for them to spend the money on it or invest in it because it's like, I don't even know if it works. And then detrimental to the cause is then you have people throwing stories out there that SEO is dead, which just feeds this whole thing. How do you deal with that? And how do you kind of help clients understand that there's value there?
That is the worst part about SEO, is that you're bound by an algorithm that you assume you know how it works, but technically you don't. And then when you follow your framework that has been working really well and it doesn't work again, that's the most aggravating part. So I think also the concern about brands bringing in SEO is very valid because there is kind of an uncertainty. It's not like paid advertising where I can see exactly, I put in this much, I get this much return. You're bound by an algorithm, which as of late has not been doing its job very well. The results have kind of been crappy. It's definitely a tough one, but at the end of the day, also, it's kind of a longer form marketing initiative where you're not going to be paying per click. You're not going to be paying for every single page visit per se. You're solidifying your brand where people are actively looking, and that's the biggest part of it all. Understanding that there's a framework that's beyond just about everyone's control, that everyone aims to follow and use. There are no guarantees. I think there are no guarantees in any form of marketing. You know, if a platform like if Facebook ads decide to just screw up, or Performance Max on Google ads isn't working the way it should, there's a potential there too. So it's hard, but again, that's marketing and diversification of your revenue streams and traffic sources. If one goes down, hopefully another can pick up the slack in the meantime.
Yeah, it's funny. Clients don't know they really don't know how to respond when you tell them, like, we think we know how the algorithm works and here's how we think it works, but
Yeah.
we don't really know. Oh, and by the way, it changes all the time. So like when you tell them that, you can just see they're like, how's that possible? It's like, I don't know, but it is. Like
Yeah.
that's how it works. I mean, these companies in some degree, the search engines are working against you because they're finding different ways to evolve and monetize, and all these strategies that they're implementing. If they were to give us the secret sauce, then that would be against what they're trying to do. So it is interesting that is the reality of it. And when you try to explain that to people, you can see it's hard for them to digest and hard for them to understand.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to hear how you go about phrasing it, but on our side, we're lucky that we've kind of niched down a little bit to work with in-house marketers. So they're already making logical decisions, marketers versus founders who tend to make, well, we're founders. Everything we do is sometimes based off emotional, where they should be logical. So most marketers understand that there are no guarantees, and it's weird with SEO, but how do you guys frame it on your side?
It is, I explain it like I just did, but like, to your point, like, they don't necessarily like the answer. And I wouldn't even say they fully accept that answer, but they also understand there are no certainties. And like how I've explained it to my clients specifically is I've said, like, think about your own car. Like, we know that it needs oil to run effectively and to run long term. But once it goes in, you don't know what it's doing. The idea is that it's sloshing around in there and it's keeping things lubed up and it's giving you the performance that you want. But at the end of the day, once it goes in, you can't see it. Now, could an argument be made that, well, how do I know it's even in there? I guess you don't. You kind of got to trust it, and you kind of have to understand that it's part of the equation. And it's tough because it costs money, and obviously it's an extra initiative and it's a strategy, and there's all these hoops and hurdles that they have to jump through to buy into it. But for me, to get them to the point where they accept it and at least understand that, I can't articulate it, but it's important. That's good enough for me, just because that's the hardest part, is to just get them to kind of buy into the idea. Because for so long, you probably remember this, when people were like stuffing keywords, and it really
Yeah.
devalued the process of SEO. And then it became kind of a gimmick. Not that it still didn't work, but I think in the eyes of the customer, it's like, well, why am I paying for this? And now we're back to where it's a legitimate art form. It's a craft. It's a skill. It's something that matters. I, for one, kind of want to sustain that. And I want them to, it's not for everybody. And it depends on where you're at in the process as to how important it is. But I think everybody should have it on their radar, because at some point, if you're a growing, successful business, it can become a staple item of your marketing plan.
Yeah. I think to your point, what you just said, it's something that if they are a business owner or an entrepreneur, they should be very familiar with that type of uncertainty or unknown, so to speak, especially when you start bringing in people to help with things. It's kind of putting the trust in other people to get the job done. There's that weird mindset that, oh, no one could do it as good as I can, which we know is faulty and not correct. But that's kind of a mindset that I think successful entrepreneurs have anyways, is that, there's going to be the unknown, and I'm not going to be sure how this is going to work or how that person's going to get it done. But I trust them, and we'll hope that they get their job done right.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you do have to invest, and you do have to have a little bit of belief and faith to get started. But like anything, once you get that rolling, there are metrics, there are indicators, there are ways to basically come back and prove and at least illustrate traction. And I think once you're at that point, you're over the hump, so to speak, as far as speculation goes. But I think that initial faith and belief that it's important is huge for people, and it's a tough one. But trust me, trust you, that you get over that hump, and then you have that data and that proof of life, so to speak, it's working. That's when you can really start to strategize and do more with it.
Yeah, we've even made a nice visual on this. And I think I recorded a video on this also. It's like a minute video, but we call it the timeline of expectations, in which, okay, SEO is top of mind. You can do some initial foundation work. It might give you a nice little boost. What that boost is, that's also ambiguous. Going from nowhere to page 4 is awesome. Everyone expects to go to page 2 or page 1. But things might slow down just a little bit. That same boost you initially got might flatline. And we call that specific section the gap of disappointment. Because then you start thinking, oh, what's wrong? What do we need to fix? Or the SEO company is doing something shady and we're getting pushed back down for it. But in due time, follow the process. And SEO is all about patience. Things, almost to a T, like we don't say it to the client directly because we need to manage those expectations, but almost to a T, we can see exactly based on how the initial collaboration is starting, how fast we're moving, when really good celebratory worthy notes are coming.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, it's seasonal too. Like depending on what your industry is and what you're doing, like there's a seasonal influence. There's obviously the influence of where you're at in the process and how your strategy is designed. There's a lot of different factors that can work to your benefit, obviously, but also that are working together to get you there. So this idea of it worked yesterday and not today, I'm gonna panic. It's like, don't panic. Yeah. Just trust it. It'll come back, and it'll and once you solidify kind of that journey too, like get 12 months under your belt, you can start to then anticipate the next 12 months and the next 12 months. It's kind of like, I explain it to clients too. It's kind of like being a first year teacher. You're going to work harder that first year because you're building a curriculum. And then if you teach second grade next year or whatever it is, year 2, 3, 4, you're going to reuse that curriculum over and over again. And every year you might make adjustments, you might tweak, you might add something, but by and large, you're going to be able to anticipate what that next year looks like, even that much easier.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's seasonal. Then you also have Google messing around with the layout of their search results, adding different things. And then sometimes brands might get complacent and the competitor is not. So that pushes them up, pushing you down, which again, sometimes may be your fault, but also things may be beyond your control.
Right. That's something I don't even think clients think about, is that you're also working against the budget of your competitor. Because if they decide to care one day and not the other, that's going to bump you up or down depending on how much they're spending or how competitive they are. So
yeah, and you can see what they're doing too, like the amount of backlinks they might be building each month, the amount of content they're producing. You could also see public information, hopefully public, if they receive round of investments, so they have more cash to spend on resources, whether it is teams, third-party vendors, links, who knows, PR.
Yeah, it's great. It's great that you kind of brought that up too, because it's just, I think it's another level of understanding, and it's a major factor that clients need to consider when deciding to go forward with an SEO strategy or go forward with a company like yours.
Yeah. I mean, we spent a lot of time very early on, and I still run sales at our agency, and I try to get these things across. And if I feel like I might be having a hard time, or the client may be nodding their head yes, and I have a feeling they still may not get it, probably spend a little bit more time in that sales process before going for the close or whatnot, but making sure there's full alignment. And the last thing you want is to work for 4 months with a client and they just have a horrible taste in their mouth because you didn't get them what they thought they were going to get. Right. No, then that just stinks.
Yeah. Well, Jason, thank you for being on the podcast. A lot of good information here. Where can we learn more about what you're doing in the agency and basically all things SEO?
Yeah, you can go to Google, type in Break the Web. You'll see breaktheweb.agency. I'm on LinkedIn, posting some randomness, puppy videos, SEO stuff, entrepreneur stuff, who knows. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn or breaktheweb.agency.
Awesome. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Likewise, Mike. I appreciate it.